parents, how do you parent your kid without your athlete hating you, right? And so this is obviously for parents with athletes. I didn't plan this video too much, so we'll see where we go, but there's gonna be a lot of good information, so stick through the whole video here. And I'm not driving, by the way, as well. Well, I kind of am, but I'm stuck in traffic, and I've been sitting in park on the interstate for the last 15-ish minutes. So I figured I might as well film a video. But how do you get your athlete not to hate you? This is a pretty big problem, and one of the things I loved working for Askren Wrestling Academy, I'm a wrestling coach, for the time that I worked with them, was they were so in with the parents. The parents like followed the structures, almost like the wrestling academy, you know, it gave these kids structures and it taught them wrestling, and it almost, on the other hand of things, taught parents how to be better, I guess, parents to their athletes. Not necessarily like how you should parent your kid, but how you should treat your athlete as a parent, maybe, is a better way of saying it. Because it's not like, you know, I want to tell you how to parent your kid or anything like that, but, you know, if you want your kid to perform at the best levels, you know, it's probably smart to do it in a smarter way than most parents do. And then, you know, more importantly than that, if you want your kid not to hate you after he's done being an athlete, or hate the sport because of you and then probably hate you as well, which is like double bad, you know, worst of case scenario, there's some steps that you can kind of take to minimize this. And now it's not always going to work, and you know, each relationship is different, so there might be different variations of each one. But, you know, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think this freaking camera stand, I think there are some, you know, things that you can practice with your parenting style that's going to help you out with this. So, I mean, first things first, right, is just don't be an asshole. You know, I think that goes pretty standard stuff right there. You know, when your kid wins or loses and stuff like that, it should be treated, obviously, you know, winning's good and losing sucks, but I mean, you shouldn't treat them personally as a person, oh my gosh, any differently, right? I'm just gonna hold this. And so, you know, when they lose, you can't like be upset with them as far as, you know, hey, like, I don't like you because you lost. Now, you can be disappointed, maybe they didn't try their best or something like that, right? And you could have a conversation about that. Or, you know, maybe if you do help them coach, which is a tricky line to walk, being a coach and a parent at the same time, because you have to know when to be mom or dad, and you also have to know when to be coach, right? So it's a very, very tricky line to walk. And one saying that will stick with me forever by John Messenbrink, legend. I'm very, very blessed to, you know, have met him and pick his brain, and just him be a part of my life and stuff like that. So he said, you will be a parent longer than you will be a coach, which that will stick with me forever. You will be a parent longer than you will be a coach. And so the parent relationship is more important than the coach relationship. Because it doesn't really matter if your kid gets super elite at a sport if he freaking hates you. And so obviously it's great that they would get elite, but they hate you. So yeah, just don't do something that you wouldn't want to get done to you, right? Don't prioritize the results and then link that to their personal value. You know, your kid loses, you know, you still love them. Your kid wins, well, you still love them. And so it's like, yes, we can celebrate things and stuff like that. I'm not saying winning and losing should be treated in the same way, but I do think that losing should be treated in a way of like, okay, why did we lose? Let's be disappointed in those reasons, or like, you know, let's fix the mistakes that we made that made us lose, not like, hey, I hate you because you lost. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The other one is this, you know, parent-coach thing. A lot of times when kids get into sports, parents also get into sport, which I get. You love your kid. You want your kid to, you know, do good in the thing they like. So, you know, even if you've never wrestled or never played baseball or never played basketball, it's probably pretty human nature to kind of get into that thing and try to help your kid as much as possible, especially as they become to like really, really love it, really, really get into it. You'll probably get into it more yourself. And I will say, when it comes to that, being able to pull yourself back and not be the coach, especially if you're taking them somewhere else. Now, if you're working with them yourself, right, that's a whole different topic, right? And then it's like, and now you have to manage that parent-coach relationship where you have to be a parent sometimes, and, you know, you have to know when to be a parent. At the dinner table, you're probably a parent, right? On the ride home from games and stuff, you know, you can kind of walk that line on the ride to school, but sometimes there's parents that it's just like, they're so invested that 100% of the conversations they have with their kid is about the sport that they play. And it's like, well, you know, now you're just turning on coach mode 100%, right? And maybe the kid doesn't want that. I'll give you an example. When I used to wrestle as a youth wrestler, I hated the ride home from tournaments, and I hate it when we got home, because it's all we would talk about is what we did good and bad in the wrestling tournament. Especially when I lost. I was a very, very bad loser when I was a kid. Still kind of a bad loser, I'll be honest. But I was a terrible loser as a kid. And I hated the ride homes because it's all we just talked about was all the stuff I did wrong. And then we'd sit at home and watch film, and we would just talk about the stuff I did wrong. And I hated it. Okay? And so it's like, not trying to bash my parents or anything like that, but that's just an example from my life that I think back on, and I'm like, man, you know, I'll probably do that differently. And now, like I said, not trying to bash my parents. Their first time parenting, you know, as well as like pretty much everybody in the world, you know, you only get one time. So it's like, that's a tough thing to do, right? And people make mistakes, it's fine. But just knowing when to turn the coach off and be a dad, right? Or be a mom. When they have a tough loss, probably time to be a mom or dad and just be supportive. Hey, when they have a great win, probably just time to be a mom and dad and be supportive, you know, and just be happy for them and stuff like that. And then also realize that, like, your athlete is putting a lot of time and energy into this. And I think a lot of parents forget how much effort that the kid puts in. And I think they just think about the effort that they put in. And then when it maybe doesn't go their way, they're like they're upset with the kid because it didn't go their way. And they're like, oh, I put so much energy and time and money and drove you to this place and drove you to that place. And it's just like, it's probably not the time for that. And you chose to do that. You chose to give this kid the opportunities. And so, yes, does it suck when your kid loses? And I'm sure it freaking sucks. I'm sure it sucks. As a coach, I hate when kids lose. It sucks. But I don't hate it in the fact of like I'm pissed at them. I hate it in the fact that I know how much effort they put in, and it sucks to freaking lose. I'll give you another example of this. Fargo this year. Tanner Gormanson. I know how much effort he put into it. And it was great. We won a state title, right? We had a little bit of bad freestyle in Greco state, right? And we went go to Fargo. We're feeling good, everything like that. And I don't want to say he underperformed, but I would say I expected a little bit better performance. Maybe not performance, but better results. And I was just I felt for him. I wasn't disappointed in how he wrestled. He wrestled hard and everything. I just felt for him, like in my heart. And that's when losses happen. That's how it should feel. It shouldn't feel like you're mad at them or anything like that. You just feel for them, and you be there for them, and you support them, right? And when wins happen, you're happy for them and you support them. And so I think that's another really, really big thing for parents as well. And then the last thing, I won't take any more time here. It's already getting to 9 minutes here. But the last thing I'll say is a lot of sports are already hard enough, especially wrestling. Wrestling's already freaking tough. Don't make it any harder than it has to be. Okay, like a lot of sports is about getting better at the sport, not necessarily like being the toughest person, especially at the youth level. That stuff comes. Don't make the sport any harder. This huge thing in wrestling is to make wrestling practice as grueling as possible at these young ages. And it's absolutely ludicrous. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life or heard in my life. Wrestling's so hard. It's one-on-one, you against another person in front of an entire gym and your parents and your friends. and your teammates and the other person's teammates. Everyone's yelling, especially at these crazy youth tournaments with these idiotic parents. We don't need to make wrestling any harder. Make it fun for them. Let them enjoy the sport while they're young, right? And then when they decide they want to get serious about it, you still don't have to make it harder, right? You don't have to be, come back to being an asshole. You don't have to be that, right? Just let them enjoy the sport. That's what it's for. It's a game. Let them enjoy it. And I guarantee your athlete's going to have better performances and you're going to have a better relationship with your kid. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. At the end of the day, it matters that when they're done with their sport, because there's going to be a time, not everyone's Tom Brady with the good looks and the genetics to run them all the way up until however long he played. They're going to be done being an athlete. And it would really suck if you didn't have a relationship with them. I hope this helps someone. I'm sorry it was long, but this traffic's freaking long, and so I figured I'd make a video. So, boom.